stand back here. But, good evening. My name is Anna Barfield. I'm from Dalton, as you already heard me say that. And me and my husband, Cole, live there, in Shellman. And we have 2 children, a little girl named Rachel, and a little boy named Colton, and they're 4 and 2. And I was just going to give a little background overview. I graduated from GSW with my bachelor's in accounting in December of '08, and then I decided to go on and get my master's without stopping, because I know a lot of the accounting firms was trying to get a job there. They wanted you to have your master's before they were hired. So in a lot of cases, that's and so I got my Master's of Business Administration from here in December of '09, and I began working at Drafton Tucker in January of 2010. While I was there, I passed the CPA exam. I studied, it took me about a year to pass it. At Drafton Tucker, they will pay for your study materials for the CPA exam. You have to sign a note saying that if you work there 2 years after you pass it, then they will cover the whole bill. But you have to work there 2 years after you pass it, not 2 years from when you start taking it. Which is a great thing, because that study material is very expensive. Do y'all do any kind of study?
No, we don't, but maybe if you could say what you used,
I use Becker.
And then how much you studied.
At Drafton Tucker, they would let you, if you didn't have anything to do while you were there, you'd have to send out an email asking if anybody had anything you could do, and if not, then you could use your time to study at work. So that was a great thing. So when you first start, you might not be very busy, so you had a lot of time to study, which was great. And then I would study every night for a few hours, and then on the weekends, at least half a day or a whole day, one day. So it was worth it to get it over with. I know a couple of people that started at Drafton Tucker with me that are still trying to pass the exam, so it's not an easy task, but once you get it done, it's well worth it.
I'm sorry, one more thing. How did you get a job at Drafton Tucker?
I went through the interview process. You want me to go through the interview process?
What that was like.
Dr. Bishop, are you Dr.?
Yeah.
Dr. Bishop. She helped me with making my resume. She looked over it, so y'all go to her or Dr. Robertson if you have any questions about the resume. They'll be glad to help you. And I sent in my resume to Drafton Tucker and also at Malden Jenkins. I went and met at Malden Jenkins, but they didn't have any job openings in Albany at the time. But you go. So I sent in my resume. They gave me a call back, and I had to do a phone interview, which didn't last too long. Then after the phone interview process, the next thing is they come to you. They came to Dawson and had a lunch meeting with me, and so I guess after you pass that part, then you go to an office interview, which is an all-day thing. You get there at 8, and I think I left at 2:30 or 3. It's a very long day, but you meet with a lot of different people in the firm, and so it's not just one person making a decision. They all fill out a survey after they meet with you and say if they liked you or, negative, positive, anything like that. And then after that, then I got an offer to come work. So it was a pretty long process, but I think it's good because it weeds out people, and it shows if all the people are meeting, then hopefully it'll be a good fit for the firm. So anyways, so I worked at Drafton Tucker for about 3 years, and then I am now currently the controller at Chemnut. So anyways, that's just like a background of my little overview. I was just going to go, at Drafton Tucker, I started as staff 1 accountant. I was there for a year, and then you go, the next level is a staff 2 accountant, and then whenever I left, I was the senior accountant, which is right above the staff 2. And in order to become a senior, you would have had to pass the CPA exam. Yeah, so you would just stay at staff 2 until you passed the exam. When I first started at Driving Tucker, I did tax season, but then I went immediately into doing hospital audits. And I was on the road, I think, 40 nights out of the year, my first year. And then about a year and a half after I started at Driving Tucker, I transferred into the commercial department, and I no longer had to travel. It was mainly doing local audits in Albany or surrounding area and doing taxes. So that was a plus. I had a new baby, and so it just worked out perfect. And so during that time, I did Chemnuts or CNI audit for 2 years, and that's how I got the job there. They offered me the job after my second year I did the audit. They offered me a job. They were looking for a controller. They did not have one at the time. That it was just the CFO and then his supporting staff, so that he was having to travel more and be a part of the actual running of this business. So he really needed help to do the, monthly financials and all that. That's how I got there. I was going to tell a little bit about, was there anything else on Driving Tucker or anything? Do y'all have any questions about Oklahoma County General Law before I go on?
Do y'all have any questions? Oh, they're saying talk a little louder if possible.
Okay, I'll try. Do I need to move closer?
Place that she could be positioned that would be better.
I know I'm not very loud. Can y'all hear me? Okay. That's why I was asking if there was a mic up there. Can they hear me better now?
Probably it'll probably be okay.
I was going to tell a little bit about I'm going to call it CNI. We changed our name. We rebranded a few years ago, right when I started, to CNI, but it stands for Chemnut Inc. We tried to get away from the whole nut of peanuts since we've expanded. We're all the way on the West Coast now, and so we do all kinds of crops. And so we tried to get away from the whole peanut thing. But anyway.
What is the general business of Chemnut?
That's what I was going to say. It's a C corporation. It was founded in 1974 by a group of peanut farmers or retailers, and it was formed to distribute agricultural chemicals and to keep the retailers from having to buy from their competition, such as CPS and Helena and all them. They wanted to buy and not be supporting their competition. In 1980, we elected for tax purposes to operate as a cooperative, and so we passed back most of our earnings to our owner members. And we only sell the chemicals, we sell chemicals and seed and micronutrients, it's basically bagged fertilizer, to our owners. We do not sell to the farmers. So that is our kind of selling point whenever we're trying to get new members, is that we will not compete with you. We'll sell to you and not to your customers. Does that help? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have a question. So basically, y'all sell to the owners and then the owners sell to the farmers?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And it's independent retailers. So like a CPS or Helena would not be a member of us. I don't know if y'all ever heard of Tri-County Ag in Smithfield. That would be considered a independent retailer.
Okay.
Good question. But this is the breakout of our accounting department. We're small compared to our sales and stuff, but I consider us to be kind of efficient. And so we have a CFO, which is my boss, Keith Thomas, and then I'm the controller, and then we have a girl that does inventory and human resources. She does enters pricing in the accounting software. She does monthly inventory reconciliations. She works with the warehouse guys and when do they do their counts and what the variances are each month. Then also she does payroll and human resources. So my boss is over human resources as well. So that's how she got delegated. Can they hear better now?
Oh yeah, they said yeah.
Okay. Then we have another girl that does accounts receivable along with being our credit manager. She deposits money every day. She does the, monthly statements to our customers. She collects the money. And then also, whenever we have a new member, we, get a copy of their financials and, personal guarantee if we can. And she will look over the financials and recommend a, credit limit for the customers. And then, the CFO will sign off on it. So, and we have a billing clerk, and she mainly just invoices our customers, keeps her pretty busy. Then we have an accounts payable clerk. She pays all the bills, and we prepay a lot of our money to our suppliers, like Bayer, DuPont, Dow. We prepay a lot in December, and so that covers a lot of our purchases through May, June time frame, and she reconciles prepay to the vendor, so how much we have left on prepay.
Can you maybe speak to why you prepay so much?
Well, they provide a good interest rate, you cannot get that kind of return on, your money in a bank or anywhere. And also our dealers prepay us, and they're taking the money from the farmer and not taking it, but the farmers prepay and, the tax write-off, and the dealers then turn around and pay us, and we pay them a return back. So we keep some on top of it for us to make some money, but we pass back a good interest rate that's very, appealing to the dealers. And she also manages expense reports for all the employees. If they have a credit card, and then they turn in their expense report for it. And then also if they, don't have a card and they're asking for reimbursement, she handles all that and makes sure the appropriate manager signs off on it. And then we also have, right now, we have a temporary employee that we hired through a temp agency just for the seasonal work. She just started, and she'll probably go through September or October. She just helps mainly with the billing clerk and the accounts payable clerk, just filing and scanning. Okay. Do I have any questions?
So when you said you had business in California and whatever, do you have physical locations out there, or it's not just customers out there?
Yes.
Or members out there?
A lot of our members and warehouses. I didn't think about that, but over the past year, we have gotten 15 or 16 new members out on the West Coast, all the way from Oregon, Washington, down to California, and now we have some in Utah, and we have, trying to count, 3 warehouses out on the West Coast, 1 in Oregon and 2 in California. And then we also use 2 public warehouses out there, kind of like Gray Distribution, y'all know them, in Albany, where we can store product there and just pay them for storing the product and for moving it. But yes, we do have warehouses out there. I believe we're at a total of 14 or 15 warehouses across the country now. I believe in 2011 we only had 3.
So you've got payroll issues in all these different states that y'all have to contend with, even if it's just 1 or 2 people in those locations. You've got all this out of state.
And we do have a payroll agency. After that girl that does inventory and human resources does payroll also, but we do use ADP to do our payroll, and she just handles reconciling it and all that.
Since y'all have warehouses and stuff in different states, when you do taxes, does that cause a discrepancy anywhere?
I'm not sure what your question is.
Okay, I know that when you make money in other states, you have to file taxes within those states. Does that happen with y'all?
Yes, so I think when we counted today, we did 16 different tax returns this year for 16 different states.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you say something about a CNI credential? No? Okay. All right. No, that's okay.
Okay. I was gonna briefly touch on my responsibilities, CNI. my main thing I do is I prepare the monthly financial statements, including bank reconciliations, journal entries, reviewing the balance sheet accounts, making sure all of them look accurate, and analyzing any of the expenses, making sure they don't look out of line. I prepare the PowerPoint for the board meetings that my boss, the CFO, presents it at the board meeting, that I help prepare it, and he looks over it to present. When Drafting and Tucker is there for the annual audit, I'm in charge of providing all the information to them, making sure they're getting all the things they need. And then along with the CFO, I oversee the other 4 accounting employees. If they have any questions, the 4 girls that work with us now, they've all been there. I think the one that's been there the least is maybe 5 years. Another one's been there 15, and another one's been there 25. So, I mean, they know what they're doing, but they do have questions and, things that they need to get approved. And so Keith and I handle that. The next one, reconcile rebates. Our company gets rebates from our suppliers, from Bayer, DuPont, all these people, lots and lots of rebates. You pay a higher price for the product, and then later on, after the program year is over, they will then pay you money back in rebates. And so I'm in charge. We have our own accounting system that we created to keep up with these rebates. If you enter in the program information, then it will tell you how much the supplier owes us, and then once we get the rebates, we then turn around and pay a lot of them to our owner members. And so what the software does is it keeps up with how much our suppliers owe us, and then also how much we owe our suppliers. Because whenever we get the rebates, it's based off our purchases, but we pay our customer owners based off what they bought from us. So we may have, inventory sitting in our warehouse that we got paid on, but we don't pay it out yet because we haven't sold it yet. So that takes up a lot of my time. And then the next one, I'm in charge of updating, issuing our net sheets to our members. This net sheet we keep very secure, and it is only available to a handful of people in each organization, our owners, and it shows what we will pay them down to for their rebate. So they'll have an invoice price that they paid up front, and then on this net sheet, it will tell them what they will get down to on that particular product, like what the rebate we pay will get them down to. Does that make sense? Okay. I also serve as the reporting secretary for the board of directors meetings. I sit in all the board meetings and keep the minutes. And I also heavily involved in planning and budgeting for our annual conference every year. We just had it in Charleston back in January. It's normally Martin Luther King weekend, and this coming one is in Orlando. So they'll kind of flip-flop in between the two, but we're considering going elsewhere since we have the new members out west to try to get more of them to come as well, kind of meeting halfway or something. But yeah, that was my last slide. But she wanted me to talk about the transition from the public accounting firm to industry, and it was more difficult than I thought it was going to be, really. I'd already been at ChemNut doing the audit, so I thought I knew everything. But apparently I didn't. No, it was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. I was doing a lot more, variety of things than I thought I was going to do. I thought I would just go in, do the monthly financials, and that was it. But as you can see, I do more than that, of random stuff like that. I didn't even think I would be doing the board minutes. That's not under the controller's job position. But as a small company or a small staff for our company, I mean, you just have to do everything kind of thing. And so I guess that was the whole difference from going from the public accounting to industry, was having to be more of a jack of all trades than just being focused on doing tax returns or focused on doing audits. It's, you know, as an industry, you're just, you know, all over the place doing everything. So,
What made you decide to change?
I really liked my job at Draffin and Tucker. I liked my boss, and I wasn't traveling at the time, so I wasn't looking for another job, but the opportunity came up, and it was a good one, and it was closer to home, no tax season, working.
Yeah.
So that's why I chose to change. And I don't regret it for a minute. But I think working in the public accounting is great, though, to get your foot in the door. It opens, you know, a lot of contacts that you might not have otherwise. And there is a lot of turnover in public accounting. You see people come and go like flies. And a lot of people that leave go to work for a client. I mean, just because that was their contacts, and I don't know.
I think you said you have your own software.
For the accounting.
For accounting.
For the rebates.
Oh, for the rebates. What kind of accounting software?
We have an old green screen, Harris Data. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, probably not, but we are getting a new software system in the fall of this year, and it's called, the company is called ESC Systems out of Brentwood, Tennessee, and they have two different ones. It's agricultural software, so it is, they have a retailer software that would be for like our customers, and it's called Merchant Ag, and then they have one that's just for distributors, which would be what we're using, and it's called Vanguard. So that is taking up a lot of my time these days, training for the new software, trying to get everybody else practicing on the software. Hopefully after the fall, it won't take up so much of my time. But
you said you went for training for a week, and then they're coming down to train you.
So last summer, after we decided that this is the software we're going to use, they had us come up there, what they called a power user training, for a whole week. And all of the accounting people got to go. Some came just for a few days at the beginning of the week, and others came at the end because we couldn't all leave at the same time. But it was a very good experience. It was a long week sitting in a classroom all day. But Nashville's fun, so we got to have some fun after. And then now they've been coming pretty much once a month down to Leesburg to train us there. So.
What's all involved in transitioning from one software to the next? What are y'all doing?
Okay, so number one is learning how to use the new software. They're making a lot of changes in the software for us to accommodate things in our business that are their software does not at this time, just little tweaks really is mainly, and that would benefit other people as well. And then once they get that in there, I feel like our girls would have a better feel as to how the software is going to work. A lot of the changes that they're going to make has to do with customer service, like entering in orders, how things show up, and how they can search for products. It's a lot of what the changes they're making has. And so then our next step will be converting all the data. We have not started on that yet, but I'm hoping it will not be a very, big thing, because we can get the data out of our old system into Excel pretty easily. So they should be able to format it and map it in order to upload it into our into the new system.
Then will y'all just start live right at that time?
November 1st is go live date. And
so there's not a do it, are you going to do
parallel?
No.
It's not going to run in parallel.
No, they're going to rip the Band-Aid off. They will still have the old software up in order to look back at something in the history that they didn't get converted, because they might not be able to convert all the data. But it will be stop using it this day, start using it that day, next day. And they will come down I believe the whole first week of Go Live week. They will be there to ask questions, looking over us, anything we need, they'll be there.
What made y'all decide to go to a new software?
Because the one we are using is ancient and it's time to update.
Do they even provide support for it anymore?
No.
That's usually
We have made,
what prompts the decision.
they do provide support, but we have a local, two guys, in Albany that have made so many changes to the software. If we took an update to the software, I mean, it would be no telling how many hours of work that the guys in Albany would have to do to make the changes that they had made back to it. So, we have not taken an update since I've been
In a while.
So, we're trying to keep from paying the fee to have support until the end of the year. I think we paid it last year, but we're trying to keep from having to pay it until we get the new one. Hopefully it doesn't fall apart. But we do have two guys in Albany that can help too, that know a lot about the software, that they can help, but they don't know all the answers for it. So keeping our fingers crossed it holds out long enough.
Well, I noticed you have down there, you were heavily involved in planning and budgeting for the annual conference, which I know is a big deal when you try to get all those people together. Are you also involved in the budgeting process for the company as a whole?
I thought about that on the way over here. I left that off. I do work with the CFO in budgeting for the year, and also doing some cash forecasting to see how much money will be on the line. Do we need to up our line credit limit at a certain time during the year? Looking at how much we're going to receive versus how much we need to pay out by month. And
Do you have budget software?
no, we don't. We use Excel. We have looked at it. It's very expensive. The things that we had looked at, and it just wasn't cost effective.
Excel's good. Go through the whole thing.
Yeah, we would love to get some kind of software. We have looked at it, but it was just too expensive.
So, when you were at Draffin and Tucker, how long did it take you to feel comfortable on the job to where you felt comfortable
At
with what you were
Draffin and Tucker?
At Draffin and Tucker. And then now, also at Chemnut, how long did it take you to feel comfortable there?
I would say after a year maybe at Draffin and Tucker, I felt a little more comfortable, but then I swapped roles, and I probably not long before I left is when I had started feeling really comfortable, with my job, kind of finally understanding most
Because you're going from one
people
place
were
to
actually
another.
asking me questions instead of me having to go ask everybody. But then now I'm still learning something new every single day, but I have gotten a lot more confident and comfortable probably within the last 6 months. I've been there 2.5 years, so maybe after 2 years.
Okay.
So it's just a new learning curve.
You said some of the accounting staff have been there like 5 to 25 years. Why were none of them chosen to move up to controller?
None of them have an accounting degree. One girl, all of our accounting staff, excuse me if I misspeak, I don't believe they have a college degree at all.
So there's more like data entry.
They come from a
Yeah.
clerical background into that.
Like one of our girls was in customer service, and she moved over to accounting. It's actually the girl that does the inventory and human resources. She's just really smart, and she just never went and got her degree. Then we do have one girl that does have her accounting degree, but that's not something that she would want to do. That's a good question.
Yeah, I was thinking, when you had said that one of the girls had been there 15 years, that question popped in my head earlier too.
She has a child and just never went to get her accounting degree. I believe my boss had asked her and pushed her to try to get her, to grow in the company, but she just never did.
Did you have any kind of agricultural background?
Well, the only agricultural background I had is my dad's a farmer and my brother, but I didn't help much on the farm growing up. I know what some of the equipment is, and I've heard some of the chemical names, but that's about it.
When you graduated, did you see yourself working in the agricultural business?
No, never. No, sorry. No, I did not. But it's great. It really is a great industry. People are nice, friendly, and it really is.
Well, I think a lot of times people in this don't realize, unless you start listening to these talk shows and reading things, how huge agriculture is for the economy of the state of Georgia. Not to mention this part of the state of Georgia. But I mean, by the time you get all the distributors and the producers and all of this kind of stuff, it's a huge impact. I mean, there's lots. You can work in agriculture and never touch anything that's what you think of as traditional agriculture. But it's big.
In the 2016 season, we're hopeful we're going to have a good year. We're planning for a good year. We're just worried about the market conditions and with commodity prices low, how it's going to be. With our growth in the West, and we also have grown a lot in the Mid-South as well, and we're hoping to have a good year.
How did y'all land your first customer out in the West? How did that happen?
We are a member of a buying group out in the West, California, and a lot of our new members are also a member of that buying group. So our officers had contacts with these retailers already. But yeah, they basically went on a selling tour about November, December last year, and traveling all up and down the West Coast and presenting to these members. And I mean, they already knew who CNI was, but they just went to tell our story and how we could help them. And
that's cool.
A couple more questions online. I don't know if you can do this, but is there, I don't know if these are private numbers, but are there annual revenue numbers that you can disclose?
It's a little over $300 million, or close to $400.
Substantial.
Yeah.
Okay. And somebody wants to know what made you attractive to Draffin and Tucker as far as a new hire, because I'm sure they get a lot of resumes. Do you think you could speak to that?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, you went through this grueling interview process. You met with a lot of people, and it's just a matter of if personality is going to mesh well.
Did you interview people when you were on staff at Draffin and Tucker?
I did.
And could you tell whether somebody might be a good fit?
I think probably not in that hour time frame, not everything. I mean, you're not going to know somebody's vaccine science, but they can turn a switch and the next minute they're terrible. But I think you get a good feeling at least. But I think it's better than an hour interview and only two people meeting with you. So I don't know. Okay.
Are they looking for a certain GPA, do you think, or did you have a good GPA?
I did have a good GPA, and I was from Albany, or close to Albany. I think that was a good selling point for me, that I was from moving anywhere, planning to move anywhere. My husband wanted to stay in the area, so I think that was a huge selling point, because I know they have a lot of times a hard time getting people to stay in Albany, because there's, it's not like Atlanta that you have something to do every single night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you start Georgia Southwestern as an accounting major, or did you grow into it? You were planning that when you started.
I went to high school at Trail Academy, and we had an accounting class in 11th grade, and I really liked it. And so my dad was like, "Well, why don't you do this major in that?" So I stuck with it. Glad I did. Are a lot of y'all, did y'all know that's what y'all are coming for, or y'all just decided?
I started out as a biology major pre-med student.
Okay.
And now, here I am. Found out real quick, like, the biology was not for me.
I don't like science either.
Do you have much experience with people transitioning from working in industry to go into public accounting? Because there's a lot of students online already have some degree of accounting experience. And then they're wondering when they graduate, should they try to find a job in public accounting? I know that it's kind of hard to do that. Public accounting, they're usually looking for somebody that's pretty new, right?
That is right. A lot of times they're looking for somebody less experienced. You know, they want to train them up. But I mean, when I was at Drafton and Tucker, there were several people that had worked in the industry and gotten their accounting degree later and were working there.
So it's possible to do that.
Yes, definitely. Any other questions?
Anybody else have anything? When you were working on the hospital bit in your first year or so, did you mostly work in Albany at Phoebe, or did you travel around at some of the smaller rural hospitals?
That's right. I think I had 40 nights out for that first year, which isn't the worst, but it definitely wasn't the best. It's probably about average, I would say, for the number of nights out. I don't know how it was at Malden and Jenkins. Was it a lot more than that for y'all's average?
Well, it wasn't for me. I was on the tax staff, but I guess the audit people.
A night out.
It was travel.
It was back and forth.
After you left, there was probably more overnight travel, but theirs was very concentrated. You know, it was all that November to March kind of time. It was year-end bank time. So, you know, it might be that you were only gone 40 nights out of the year, but maybe 35 of them were all right there, you know, in a 3-month period or something. So it was a good bit, but I don't know if that's the case. You know, with all the electronic stuff now, you sometimes don't have to travel quite as much as you did back 20 years ago. So I don't really know, but
yeah, so there's only one hospital in Albany now, so it's like there's not, you know, it's not like there's 30 different banks like it would be in Malden and Jenkins. So yes, they did have to travel a pretty good bit. Most of the hospital audits were, you know, overnight stays.
And how hard was taking the CPA exam after, you know, do you feel like your classes here had any relevance to what you studied in Becker, or did you feel somewhat prepared, or?
It did. The classes did help, but it just went into so much more detail, the Becker stuff did. I mean, it was just overwhelming, the detail it goes into, and just the information that you have to pack in your brain all for one test is ridiculous. But like I said, it's well worth it. But yeah, so yeah, I do think this classes prepared you, but not, you know, fully just studying like that. Like you study for a test now, I mean, you have to switch it to a whole different level to study for the CPA exam. I mean, you have to devote yourself to studying for that exam. Does that answer your question?
How successful can someone be in industry without getting a CPA?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't have that knowledge of other places, but I feel certain, like at a company like ours, you would not be able to be a controller or a CFO if you did not have your CPA exam.
So you feel like obtaining the CPA opened doors for you?
Yes.
That
Definitely. I highly recommend doing the test and passing it and getting it out of the way, because it will open lots of doors for you. Because like even the public accounting, you can't go but so far. Even if you're the best auditor they have, you can't go but so far until you pass the exam. There was a guy there that he was so smart and he was great at what he did, and I think he had been there 6 or 7 years when I was there, and he was still a staff 2 accountant. running these big jobs, but he wasn't getting, I'm sure the pay that he deserved because he had not passed the CPA exam. And the recognition or the title he deserved, because he should have been a manager.
I think I walked in late. How long did it take you to get your CPA, or did you do it while you're doing your master's? Or
no, I waited until after I was done with my master's. I started studying shortly after I started at Drafton and Tucker, and it took me about a year to pass it.
Did you pass every part the first time, or did you have to
No, it took me twice on one part, 3 times on another one, and then I passed the other 2 the first time. I blame it on getting married and having to wait.
Like that.
I blame it on I had to teach myself how to study like that, because it was the first 2 that I said that I had to retake. Those were the first ones, and then the last one.
Do you feel like you
like
studied?
A mindset.
Did you study harder for the last?
I think so, yes, I think so. And then I had just gotten in that mindset of how I had to study.
Well, like you said, it was a notch up from studying for a test in a class. So if you're not used to studying that way, you have to kind of teach yourself.
Exactly.
Do you have a preference, or do you think there is a better order to take the parts?
I don't know that I tried to get the hardest one out of the way, or the hardest one to me was financial, just because it's so big. And so I tried to get that out of the way first, but that's the one that took me 3 times. The easiest one was DEC to me, just because it was a lot shorter than the other one. But I don't really have any suggestions on what order to do it in. Probably just personal preference, really. Or what you might want to take one that you feel more confident in that area, just to boost your confidence up. My suggestion.
Someone's asking, do you think employers view online students differently?
I don't think so. Do they know that they went online?
They don't know. They don't know that it was online. Did you
your
take
degree says
the same thing?
bachelor's of
Right.
or accounting. So.
Did you take any online classes?
I did.
And in the MBA program, I know. Did you take? No, you didn't. Okay. So some of your accounting classes were online.
I don't think y'all really offered a whole lot of
online
classes when I was doing my master's. Did y'all just start doing that? Not
Yeah.
long ago?
But in the accounting program, you did take some online classes, and
no, I mean, yes, they don't know if you took an online class or went to class every day.
Okay.
They're looking at the degree.
And passing the exam is, if you do that, then you're fine.
If you have the opportunity to take the exam before you started working or looking for a job, that would be great also, because you could dedicate more of your time to having to work all day and then go home and study. I didn't do that, but I know a lot of people that were starting and they had just passed the exam whenever I was at Drafton and Tucker.
Well, since you had really good grades, maybe you could speak as to how you studied in class.
No.
This is on here. So No, this is on here.
I don't know. I took good notes, and I just I read over my notes, read the chapters, reviewed them over and over.
Over and over. So you read the chapters at least once?
Yes.
Twice?
Probably not twice.
Probably not twice.
Took notes while I was reading. Then read over my notes repetitively.
So would you say you studied a lot?
I did, but I don't think overly.
Okay. You weren't
It probably seems like a lot at the time. But
Yes, after the CPA exam, I didn't study any, it felt like. But, no, for the CPA exam, definitely I took notes after notes to try to beat it in my head.
So it's divided into modules. You studied a module continuously until you knew that module well, you felt like. And that usually took like one study session, would you say?
You're talking about the
CPA exam? Mhm.
So like for financial, the long one that I was talking about, I think it had like 9 different sessions. They said you could do that in 9 weeks, and if you studied, you know, a lot that week, 20 to 40 hours probably. And then after you did the 9-week session, then you could do a review week if you wanted to, and take the exam. Yeah, but it was just based on your personal thing. Because I did the DSC, I didn't do they used to offer where you could go in person. I don't even know if they still do that anymore. I don't know. And they also do it online, like where you could watch them live. But I just did the self-study CD, and so you could watch it whenever you wanted to. And so it depended on your schedule as to how much you had time for. If you could break up the sessions into 2 weeks for one session if you needed to. They do ask a lot more questions.
They did. They asked a lot of questions.
What did Brian Colasar say? He had answered over 1,000 questions in Lime for that first part. He could. Our speakers that spoke earlier.
Did you answer every question in the
Material.
Becker materials?
Yes, I did.
And did you
I
get
got
that?
to where I was seeing multiple ones, and even when I was taking the exam, I would see the exact question that I got in Becker.
And you remembered the answer?
Yes, I was like, yes. So yeah, that would happen. You would get the exact same, because they do take questions from old tests in the Becker material, to the actual questions. So.
You didn't study anything else other than the book in class, did you? Okay. Anything else? Okay. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It really did help. They, you know, especially the online students just love to hear experienced folks talking about what they do.
So you feel free to, I didn't bring a card, but you could give them my email address.
Okay, I'll do that when we do it.
You didn't think of tonight, I'll be glad to, because I remember when I was a student, it was neat to have somebody come talk, but just to get a little idea of what it is working.
So where is the physical location of your Chemnut CNI office? It's
Where the new Albany tractor location is right behind there. It's in that industrial park.
okay. They're out there by Oakland, out that way.
I call it Cookville, but
Yeah.
But yeah, it's in between Stafford and Albany on 520.
So you have a large warehouse distribution thing there, and then you've got an office area, I guess.
They moved out there, I think, in 2003. They were the first people to move out there. The old building they had was on Leday Road, where Tough Trucking is. That was the old Chemnut building. So they ran out of space there, definitely. So, bigger warehouse there now. We just added on some past year and a half. It was at 144,000 square feet, but now it's over 150,000 square feet. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.